Welcome to Wellness Made Easy with Wendy and Kirsten. Hi, I'm Wendy. After I graduated with my master's in wellness management, I started my own company, T2 Coaching, Health, Fitness, and Sport. And I'm Kirsten, an athlete, vegan, life coach, and girl mom, running a business focused on helping others create a life they love. We are here to explore all things wellness to help you become the person you've always wanted to be. So if that's why you're here, open your ears and your mind as we tackle the world of wellness together.
Hey, everybody. Hi, Wendy.
Hi, Kirsten. How are you?
I'm great. I think this is my third or fourth week with this schedule, and I finally am not starving by the time I get to this point in the day. So I finally worked out my nutrition.
That's awesome.
I know.
And speaking of that makes me think of recovery. My watch, after many, many weeks, it's finally telling me I'm ready to train.
That's how mine has been.
My training status has been low for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I know it's because the past 2 nights I've gotten this amazing sleep.
Right.
And it's just still, I know this, but it's still like amazing to me how just one night of just more quality sleep where I'm not waking up 3 times to go to the bathroom and I'm kind of sleeping through that period, how much better I feel.
Yeah.
And my legs and my bodies, my muscles still feel fatigued. I'm surprised I'm ready to train because I don't necessarily feel ready to train, but it's the mental note that my Garmin is sensing that I'm ready to train makes me feel good because I'm doing an Olympic distance this weekend.
I know. I was going to ask you when your triathlon was because I knew it was coming up. It's this upcoming weekend.
Yeah.
Nice. You're like, finally, I get the green light the 2 days before my race.
Yes.
That's how I feel when I wake up and my recovery is like red. And I was like, oh, I have a long workout to do today. This is not going to go well. But it is what it is, right?
It is what it is. Yeah.
So what's your wellness win for the week?
That I'm recovered.
That is a wellness win.
That my body is, because again, it's a wellness win. Well, wait, let's back up. Let's talk about actually what my wellness win is. The last podcast, I talked about what I'm looking forward to, and it was going to the mountain that I like to run in. My new area that I absolutely adore and love. And I went there the day after we recorded the podcast. Is a wellness one. I want to just kind of go into more detail because it was a load off my mind. I'm doing this race with 12,000 feet of elevation gain at the end of July, and I've done a race at the end of May, and it's similar terrain, but going to do this training run that's 2 hours away. So it's 4 hours or plus a little bit more total in the car for a day. It's like my weekend day. Like I schedule it, like I plan for it. I plan to take that, like that's like my weekend day where I don't necessarily work. I do a little bit. So anyways, I went to it. It was no visibility when I got to the top. It's at 4,700 feet. No visibility. It was raining. There was no one there. I still paid for my parking though. And 2.5 miles down, it was sunny and beautiful. So I did this. I just ended up doing like this long climb a couple times. And it was so amazingly awesome because I got it out of my mind. Like just that peace of mind, knowing that I went there and I did all this elevation and I did really well and I'm feeling good about it. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to go there for 2 more weeks. I'm not going to go there for 3 more weeks. Like, I feel like it's just a load off my mind, knowing that I can do the things that I was unsure of.
Right.
By myself in inclement weather and stuff like that. So that's a huge wellness win because again, it's kind of, I wasn't stressed out, just a little anxiety and excitement because I really wanted to do it. And again, more and more, I'm allowing myself to take the time to prioritize the training that's only going to help me for this race that I'm doing next month. And then once I do the race, I kind of will go back into a different training mode. And the fact that I'm still kind of training through my Olympic distance that I'm doing this weekend, I am going to rest a little bit, like I'm not tapering because I have nothing to taper off of because I kind of trained like a trail runner. And then for 8 weeks, I rode my bike with absolutely zero intensity, zero effort. I just rode my bike. And so it'll be interesting to see how I do still like prioritizing my race in July, and I don't want to like miss out on the training for that, but you know, trying to find this balance. And I'll know after Sunday if I did a good job. I still
Right.
think I'm going to ride pretty strong with just a little touch of rest and a right fueling plan. I think I could still ride strong, even though I might not. I'm okay with it.
Well, we always talk about how our our goals are changing, our intentions are changing, our priorities are changing all the
Yeah.
time. And you've known for the last couple of years that triathlon is something you just want to do, to check it off, to keep being a quote triathlete. And you never know, in another 5 years, you might get like, okay, I want to do some like bigger races and perform better. But right now you're excited about your trail runs and getting those big elevation workouts and
Mm-hmm.
not doing the specific power workouts on the bike or the specific interval workouts on the swim and the run.
Right.
So
Right.
it's
So we'll see. Like I want to do well. It's just the nature of who I am. I still want to
yeah,
perform to the best of my ability, knowing I'm not in my normal fitness, triathlon fitness right now. And I'm okay with that, knowing that I always think I could do well.
right,
So I just
right.
have that mindset, and that success is always in my future. So yeah, I'm really excited about that.
That's awesome. And something you mentioned that I think is a good thing to put out there as a reminder that those confidence building sessions are so important in whatever you're training for. And if you could pinpoint that, either your coach could be like, hey, here's, this session is designed for confidence training. And I think about like the long ride. So if you're doing an Ironman for the first time and you're like, I don't know if I can ride 100 miles on my bike, and you go out and ride 100 miles, even if it was slow, even if it was you bonked and you messed up your nutrition, just getting in 100 miles on the bike builds so much confidence going into an Ironman
Mm-hmm.
that, especially if it's your first one or if you haven't done one in a while, just doing that long ride, that could be the sole purpose of their ride, is to get off the bike and be like, I don't know if I can run after this, but at least I know I could be on the bike for 6 hours or however long it took you.
Right.
So always make sure you guys are doing those confidence building workouts, regardless of what you're training for. If it's a 5K or a swim in the pool, like when my friend Kat and I did that swim meet in January, I was like, we did 4 events. You could pick 4 events throughout the swim meet, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to feel doing these 4 events in like a 3 or 4 hour swim meet. Like that's not a lot of downtime when you're going as hard as you could. So we did a couple workouts where we did all those events back to back.
Mm-hmm.
So that we went into the meet knowing, I mean, not back to back, we had like 5 minutes rest, which
Mm-hmm.
isn't very much when you're going hard. But we went into the meet knowing, okay, at least I'm going to get through these all 4 events without sinking to the bottom of the pool. So yeah, so my wellness win, one of them actually is something that I wanted to talk about later because it has to do with like, questions that athletes have. But my main one that I'm really excited about. So I coach a kids swim team. We have 145 kids. I love, Wendy and I've talked about this before. We love coaching those kids. We love coaching summer swim team. And in the last week, I've had several parents come up to me and say, thank you for making this such a positive experience for my kids or children or one kid or 2 kids. And some of them are swimmers that have been swimming a while. One of them is an older kid who's not really that into swimming right now, but I still give them permission to just be on the team and swim their events without any pressure. Because sometimes the older kids just want to quit because they don't want to wake up early. They're not going to be getting any faster. They don't want to have to try hard. I'm like, just stay on the team and be a good role model and a good junior coach for the other kids. So one of them was a mom that was like, thank you for giving her a safe space to stay on the team without any pressure of having to get better. And then another one that just really made me smile. We have our 9 to 12-year-olds. They can help out with the 8 and under kids, and we call them junior coaches, because if you're 13 and older, you can apply to be a junior coach, which helps with all the kids 12 and under. And so right now we have several junior coaches, and we have this 8-year-old who just won first place at this pentathlon that the league put on. She's just super into swimming. And her mom said to me, she just asked me what I needed to work on, what she needed to work on to be able to next year be a junior coach so that she can work up to being a junior. I mean, she's 8 and she's already looking ahead. Like she wants to be a junior coach next year so that when she turns 13, she's ready to be a junior coach. And I just love that. And that's a huge wellness win for me because I want these kids to love being on the team. It is so fun to have kids win. It's fun to win. I'm not going to lie. We won our last swim meet. We just did a pentathlon on Monday, and that girl, she took first place overall. I had another girl take third overall for 8 and unders. I had a 9 and 10 boy take second overall, and a 15, 18 girl take third overall. So don't get me wrong. I love having these amazing swimmers winning awards. They get big trophies. But the majority of the people aren't going to be winning. That's just how life is. And it makes me so happy that they love being on the team. They want to be a part of the future team. And then they're getting a lot more out of the team rather than just swimming events. And that's really important to me. So to have that confirmation from parents, I would say in the last 2 weeks, probably 10 parents have just come up and said something to me in the way that is telling us as coaches that we're doing a really good job of helping their kids have a very positive experience on the swim team.
Yeah, I love it.
So huge wellness.
So I coach the summer league. I coach the very, very beginner kids, lane 1. And every time I go to practice, I think about how summer league started me out loving swimming and being a swimmer. And I'm still a swimmer throughout my life. And I just think it's so important for those kids to have that positive experience. That's great.
Yeah. This 8-year-old she already told her mom, she's like, I want to be a swim coach when I grow up. Like she has her whole life planned around swimming. And she got on her braces, the bands, she got yellow and blue bands because those are our swim colors. And then Wendy, I have to send you this video. It's pretty amazing. Her dive is not that good. I mean, like I said, she just won first place at the pentathlon for 8 and unders, and her dive isn't even that good. So we're working on dives this week, and her dad set up this giant beanbag and put a squishy between her feet and had her diving from the stairs onto the beanbag, trying to hold the squishy between her feet. That's what she was doing yesterday. So the other day. So I have to send you that video because it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It's like she's diving off the stairs onto a giant beanbag. So but anyway,
speaking of squishies, today we were working on breaststroke kick, keeping our knees in because a lot of young kids like to splay their knees a little bit too wide. So we did have a bunch of squishy balls
and put it between their
knees. Lessons. So I was having the kids squeeze the squishy ball between their knees. It's a little bit small to do and to hold. It's better just to wear a pull buoy between your legs.
But it's just something different and fun.
Oh, they loved it. And it worked. I mean, it was enough for a 6-year-old to understand, keep your knees together. And I was actually pretty impressed how well those squishy ball objects that we found, because we couldn't find anything else, really impacted the kids and it helped them with their breaststroke technique.
Yeah, we sometimes when I'm helping with breaststroke kick, we do a set with a band around like our upper thigh, like right above our knee. So it's like the bands that you can band your feet together, and we put it above the knee. And so their knees can come out a little bit wider than a little bit out, but no wider than the hips because the band is squishing them together. And it kind of gives them that feel of your feet going outside your knees.
Yeah.
I haven't tried this yet, but Kat learned this thing at a swim conference she went to, and they teach their kids doing breaststroke with flip-flops. So like in my head, it totally makes sense. I haven't tried it yet.
Uh-huh.
So they're wearing flip flops. So when they push their feet out, that you know how you have to flex your feet in breaststroke.
Yeah.
So you're pushing against the flip flop. So if you point your toes, the flip flops fall off.
Yeah. Interesting.
I know. So she had told me about it, and I'm like, that would be a fun thing to try with the kids. Maybe I'll get a bunch of cheap flip flops and we could all try it out.
Yeah, that's good. I like it.
Yeah, but just so you guys know, if you're trying to learn breaststroke, it's the hardest stroke. It's the most technical stroke. People always think butterfly is the hardest, but butterfly is a lot of strength and timing and rhythm. But breaststroke technically is a really hard stroke to learn. So if you guys are struggling with breaststroke, you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
So Wendy and I wanted to continue our final week, 3 out of 3 weeks of some athlete training questions and racing questions. Just because it's summertime, everyone's in full swing of racing and there's a lot going on. We're getting a lot of questions, and I've gotten a couple comments on our last 2 episodes, and they want more questions. So we decided to round it out with a trilogy of athlete questions. So Wendy, why don't you start?
Great. So this athlete actually commented, we did an episode, I think it was 2 weeks ago, about did not start and imposter syndrome. And the reason for the topic is I have an athlete that was dealing with a did not start, a DNS, and imposter syndrome. So I thought it was a really good conversation that we had on that podcast.
Wow.
So she had reached out to me and said, hey, coach, I listened to the podcast. Thank you so much for both talking about DNS and imposter syndrome. It's great that my story helps someone else the same way. Because I think athletes don't maybe want to talk about something like that. And when they do, they realize that, oh, there's so many others out there that have struggled with not starting a race, or especially imposter syndrome. I know I did, especially when I went to my first Kona Ironman, and we talked about yours a couple episodes ago, but just having that imposter syndrome of not belonging, forgetting how prepared you are, forgetting about all that training because you show up to a race and you see different body types and you just feel like you don't belong there. And that's the wrong way to think. So thank you for her to reaching out. And then she also had a question about acclimatizing to heat. She's doing an aqua bike nationals in Pennsylvania, and it's a little bit longer than an Ironman distance. I think it's like 116 miles on the bike, and it's a 2.4, maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little bit longer swim. She's trying to qualify for the Aqua Bike World Championships in Edmonton, Canada. So she lives in Seattle, and she's worried about heat, not getting enough heat training. And again, truth be told, she does all her training indoors. Training indoors is probably the best way to acclimate to heat. Training indoors without your windows open, without your fans open, just grinding on your indoor bike trainer, I think is a great way to acclimatize your body and get used to heat if you're not outside in the weather elements. And then she also questioned whether, we've talked about this before, there's some sort of sauna, steam type of protocol. And again, I'm not versed in how effective that type of acclimatization is going to work, whether you spend a certain amount of time in the sauna leading up to your race. That same day, I was told by a friend of mine, as I'm trying to figure out ways to acclimate to a race I'm doing that starts at 7,000 feet above sea level. And I live in Georgia now, which is the reason I'm going to Brasstown Bald, because that's the highest point in Georgia. But this friend of mine recommended that I spend 20 minutes in a sauna, try to do it post training while my heart rate's still elevated. And there's been some, literature, data, research that the sauna, 20 minutes, a few days a week, helps increase the red blood cells like altitude training does. And I've experienced that since training in Georgia and training for the Hawaiian Ironman back in the day, trying to go out and run at 3, 4, 5 in the afternoon when it's super humid. And that's the time I'm running in Kona, and trying to get my body used to that. So I always feel like there's some sort of red blood cell altitude training effect for those of us who train in the thickness of humidity. But again, I haven't done my own research to pull out some studies that have proven that. So I just
Right.
want to know if you have any advice about
Um,
acclimatization.
yeah, I love that. So since I've been going to Hot Works, which is basically workouts in a sauna, and they have everything from yoga and stretching to like some strength, some body weight strength stuff like isometric holding. They have more intense, like a core workout, and they also have cardio. So they have a rowing machine, they have bikes, and they have those bikes that you go on your own, those CrossFit bikes. I don't even know what they're called. I don't want to destroy the wording, but those CrossFit bikes where you use your hands and you're sitting. So it's also some cardio, and part of what they've done a lot of research because that's how they promote their product is by stating the research. And again, I don't know it specifically, but they promote that, or they share, and they part of their spiel of like why to do this, part of their why behind it is that it promotes that sustainable burn, as far as like calorie burn, muscle growth, like all that stuff for up to an hour after being in the sauna. So all those positive effects from heat training will continue for about an hour, about 60 minutes. So they even have on their app, like when you're finished, you can like say, I'm done with my workout, and it starts like a 60-minute timer just to show you like you're still getting all these benefits after you get out of the heat. So doing your training, going into the sauna, getting those heat benefits, the heat benefits are going to expand past just that 20 minutes in the sauna.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So that's what the research that they put out, and it's a big franchise. So I'm sure that they've done specific research, because they're not going to be like, promoting this benefit in a franchise with like, I think there's like 600 of them in the US. They're not going to like state a bunch of false information because people will call them out on it.
Yeah.
So I feel like a big company like that, they've done some research. I have a girl, athlete I coach. She's training for Badwater, which sometimes, if you guys never heard of it, it's a 135-mile foot race, tons and tons of climbing. It's at Badwater in California, and it's in July. It's coming up here in about 3 weeks, and or 4 weeks. The temperatures sometimes reach like 130 degrees. So that's the bulk of her training is heat training. So she luckily does live in a hot area in New Mexico, but she's been doing her training with layers, and indoors she'll turn on the heater and run on her treadmill. So you can make this work even if you don't live in a hot environment. But one thing, she texted me the other day, and she lives kind of out in the country. She has a farm. She like has horses and dogs and stuff, and she lives on a lot of land. And to go into town, she'll go in to run like all her errands at once. And so a couple of weeks ago, she texted me and she was like, does this count as heat training? And it was like 6 hours of running errands in like 90-degree heat with her windows all rolled up and the heater on. So she's driving around with her car probably being like 110, 120 degrees, fully clothed. Whereas like when I get in the car and it's hot, I roll down the windows, I crank the AC, and I'm like, oh, this is life. She purposefully, driving around running errands for 6 hours, made her car really, really hot. And I was like, yes, that does count as heat training.
Yeah, for sure.
So getting creative with, Wendy and I talked about this just 1 or 2 weeks ago about training what you're going to be racing.
Yep.
So one of the things I thought about when you were just talking about what this athlete had said, and we were talking about you're doing this triathlon, you're not specifically trained for it, but you've done some training. I've decided all in. I'm going to do my race. We talked about it last week. I asked advice from Wendy. I'm like, I can't decide, do I want to do this race or not? And I really didn't want to do it because I'm tired. I want to sleep. I want a weekend of doing nothing. I don't want to train for it anymore. I just want to do some like short, fun workouts. And my race I'm scheduled for is a half Ironman. So I'm like, well, I should be doing some training. So I just read this quote that I was like, oh my gosh, this is so exactly what I needed to hear. And it's exactly what Wendy just talked about. So it says something like, you might not be trained for the race that you wanted to have, but you are definitely trained to race. And it's so true. Like Wendy just said, she's still going to go out and try to do well, and probably will be because it's Wendy. But if maybe she's like, oh, well, I wanted to do this, add this to my training or this to my training. It doesn't matter. She's still going to go out and crush the race because she's very fit and very trained. Maybe not specifically for that race, but she's been training and she's very fit. So I thought about that with my race, because the reason I got excited to go do it, and I was really on the fence. And this goes back to your why. Why do you want to do something? If you have a strong why, the decision-making is very easy. So the day after last podcast recording, where I'm like, I don't know, I really don't want to go do this race. I don't want to spend the money. I don't want to take the time, and I don't want to train. And it's in a month. Well, the very next day they announced, they being Ironman company, because this is an Ironman 70.3 race, they announced the World Championships for 70.3 next year is in Chattanooga. And I always told myself, if the World Championships come back to the United States, I want to go one more time. And so I was like, I really want to do another World Championships. I only want to stay in the United States. I don't want to travel internationally. And I was like, but I don't want to do another half Ironman next year to try to qualify. Because after this year, I was really excited just to do some shorter stuff. So I was looking at it, and qualification starts July 4th this year, and my race is July 12th. So the race I'm going to do is actually a qualifier. So then I was like, I'm all in. I really want to qualify, but it was 3.5 weeks away. And my training has been like 6 hours a week of not specific training. So again, I know, and that's when I saw that quote, like, I'm fit enough to race. I'm just not fit enough to have the race I want. However, I'm going to go out and do it anyway. I'm going to I was like, this is what I told myself last week, just rally, come up with a plan in the next 10 days to just get them some specific training, rest and taper for 10 days, and just go out and see what happens and see if you could pull it off. And if not, no big deal. It was my fault. Like, I didn't have that why. And so I wasn't training, but now I have that why. I'm like, I'm going to go out and see what I can do. So last weekend, I forgot it was Father's Day. And I'm like, I'm not going to be able to train it all this weekend because I had my daughter last weekend. Well, I remembered it was Father's Day. So she was with her dad on Sunday. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go out and do a long ride because I haven't done a long ride yet this year. And I went out, and in my mind, it was 60 miles and I was going for like 3,000 feet of climbing. And when I got done, it was only 48 miles. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it just took me 4 hours to go 48 miles. But then I looked, and it was like 4,800 feet of climbing. And I'm like, okay, I don't need that much climbing. This race is only like 3,000 feet of climbing. So this weekend, I do have some time after the swim meet in the heat of the day. So I could I've already found a route that's closer to what the race route resembles. So I'm going to go out and do that. I'm going to do a run after. I'm going to spend this next week just doing it. I'm doing what Wendy and I always tell people not to do, which is I'm cramming for my race. But since I haven't been doing a lot of training, but I'm generally fit, I feel like doing 10 days of race specific training, 10 days of taper, I at least am giving myself more confidence and more of a chance of success than if I was to do something different. So I pulled together this little training plan, and I'm going to see what happens.
And I love that. And I want to like jump in there. Context is everything. Most athletes don't have 30 plus years of training with minimal breaks. So to quote unquote cram, we're not really cramming because we're always at this baseline of fitness. So we just happen to be always be at this baseline. And when we set a goal or an event, we're able to say, okay, I'm going to train a certain way because I want to do well at that event, or I want to go longer. I'm going to train a certain way days leading up to the event. And again, in your case, you might not necessarily need a traditional 10-day taper because you don't have
anything to taper from.
You don't have the 4-week build, so you don't have much to taper from. So again, the context is everything when you're hearing or listening and seeing the way other people train. It's important to know the person's experience, fitness, goals, the why, and the why is the super most important thing of the way and the reason that you're going to train for a certain event. So again, just like myself, I think you're going to be just fine. New Mexico is a new race. You had to register for it months, maybe even a year ago.
Over a year ago.
So it's not like someone like me is like, oh, I want to qualify for 70.3 World Championships in 2027. I'm going to sign up for New Mexico to go qualify.
Right.
It's already people who are like, oh, there's a new race. So that could be to your advantage that you could qualify in a very upcoming race in 2026 that's happening in the next month or two, because no one else has that mindset of I'm doing New Mexico to try to qualify for the 70.3 World Championships in Chattanooga. So again, I think there's a lot of pros, and I'm glad you're doing it, and I'm glad you found that why and that reason. Yeah. I'm going to jump in here and say I am not have any desire to qualify for the 70.3 World Championships. A lot of people texted me, and that was the day I did my big run.
I'm sure, yeah.
Oh my God. When I got done with my run, I had so many texts, and I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. But they're like, are you going to come out of retirement? And I'm like, no, I'm so excited to see you, athletes that I coach qualify, friends from Colorado that I don't coach, because I know there's a lot of people in Colorado that are excited to come to Chattanooga. It really is the perfect venue. I've done Chattanooga 70.3 World Championships in 2017, and I just have no desire to ride my bike that long. I'd rather run that long. So yeah. I am thrilled that it's coming to Chattanooga because it's so close to me. So I hope you
qualify. I know. I totally thought of you as I didn't think of you like, oh, is Wendy going to try to qualify? I knew you wouldn't, or you don't want to. But I was thinking like, oh my gosh, I'll get to see Wendy. That's so exciting.
I know. I'm thinking Kirsten, we should get an Airbnb together.
I know. Yeah, for sure. We're like the perfect roommates because we just do our own thing and we don't care. Like we don't feel like, some people you guys, you stay with or like hang out with and you're like, oh, I feel like I have to kind of hang out with them. Or Winnie and I just literally I remember we were doing, when I came to visit you in Georgia in 2017, and we went to Lifetime for like 4 hours, and her and I were on the step mill side by side, literally doing our own thing. Like every once we'd like say something to each other. Like we were like looking through our training peaks and our clients and like social media and just doing things on our phones. And every once in a while we'd be like, oh, something reminded us of, or we wanted to ask each other a question about something. So I'm like, it's just nice to have those friends where you don't really feel like you have to give your energy, especially if you're going to be racing. You just want to I like to do my own thing.
Yeah. And I'm there to do my own thing. Yeah. But I just want to have a roommate. I don't want to go. I want to stay there with you if you know your plans.
I know. Oh gosh, now I have to go. So one thing I did, so this is, I think really valuable too for you guys who are like coming up to a race where you don't feel like you did enough, which I promise you guys is everybody. Like everyone gets toward the race day and they're like, did I do enough? I didn't do enough. Even if you're training 20 hours a week, did I do enough? Did I do enough? You have done enough. But it's good too. That's why we keep journals. That's why we have training peaks. That's why we keep logs. So we can look back and know we did do enough. And one of the things I did, because again, it was really interesting because I could not decide, even after talking it out with Wendy on last week's podcast. I'm like, I still don't know if I want to do this race. And then the very next day, one of my past athletes, he texted me and he was like, hey, did you see the World Championships? And they just announced Chattanooga next year. And immediately, well, first my thought, like I said, was, oh, I don't want to do another race next year. So when I looked and it said that my race I was doing was a qualifier, I immediately was like, I'm going. And then I'm like, oh crap, I don't think I can qualify at this point because I'm just not trained to. So what I did for myself, and this could pertain to it doesn't have to be a sport. This could pertain to anything in life. Look back at the facts. Look back at what you've done up to this point in your life. And even in the past couple months, when I say I've been training like 6 hours a week, that's 6 hours of swimming, biking, and running. But I went back just to give myself some peace of mind to the last few weeks of how much activity I've done. So I teach 4 classes a week. They're functional strength training classes. So that's 4 hours. I taught yoga. So that's part of activity. That's part of training. I did jujitsu 3 times. I counted everything, which was about 10 hours of activity. That's not swim, bike, and run. And if I'm swim, biking, and running for 6 hours, 4 to 6 hours, there was a couple of weeks it was only 4 hours. I'm like, that's still 14 to 16 hours of overall fitness training. So even though it hasn't been specific like I had wanted it to be, or I didn't want it to be honest, but hoped it would be after I decided I wanted to do the race, it's still movement. It's still training. It's still helping my body get to where I can actually pull something like this off, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's valuable. You guys look at, if you're going for a job interview and you're like,
very valuable.
Yeah.
I think that's very valuable. And it goes to, again, the accumulation of years and years and years. It's not like especially if you've had a few years experience, you don't have to have 30, but if you've had a few years experiences, that counts. You're a different person 3 years later than you were 3 years ago. 3 years ago, you were brand new. 3 years later, you're not. So you really got to think and look at the big picture. And again, my last Ironman in 2022, I looked back at all the first 20 Ironmans I'd done, and I took something away from each Ironman and I applied it to my last one in 2022. So it's something that's really valuable to do.
Yes. And just mentioning, looking for in any area of your life, looking for those things that you have learned from each experience that will help you. So like, I feel like my nutrition is great. So I'm ahead of all the people who haven't dialed in their nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm luckily, so the New Mexico race starts at like 7,000 feet. Like it's a high elevation race. Nice. And so not everybody going there lives at 5,000 feet like I do. So that could give me an advantage because I live at a higher elevation. It's not that high, but going from sea level to 7,000 feet is really going to affect somebody a lot more than me going from 5,000 to 7,000 feet. So we'll see. We'll see. We have a couple weeks. We'll find out.
Well, and I also want to say, like, one of my friends asked me, he's like, do you think you could qualify? And I'm like, I absolutely think I could qualify if I trained on the bike. And the reason I know that is every time I'm tracking at other athletes at other 70.3s events, I track my age group. My age group is 50 to 54. And I'm like, oh, how would I have done in my age group? And I know looking at my 50 to 55 or 54, like you are, I'm like, I got them on the swim. I could do that run and I could probably do that bike if I trained. So I've already been looking at athletes in my age group at other races to see how would I've done. So that's important for you to know. I think for you, because I think this for me and our age group, you have a really good shot because you're not 40 anymore, you're 50.
Right.
And you have all that experience. I think you have a really good shot.
Right. And I've been trying to give myself some confidence. And because again, like sometimes we compare ourselves to other people or where we want to be or where we were. And We've done 3 stroke and strides. I feel like up until this third one, they have been so slow. They have felt awful, but I still won my age group.
Mm-hmm.
So, and same with the boulder, like that was only a month ago. That seems like it was like 3 years ago. It was 1 month ago from tomorrow. And I won my age group. So these are the things that are helping me feel confident. And I think this is really good to do in life is remember things that you've done that are hard, or remember things you've done that were meaningful to other people or meaningful for yourself. And so when you're in a position where you're trying to do something that's a challenge, you have all these things that you can remind yourself that you've done hard things. Wendy and I talked about this when we were talking about how to make hard things fun and, challenging yourself. And Wendy even said this, she likes to do these challenges to show herself that she can do hard things. So when something else comes up that feels like it's going to be too hard, she knows it's not too hard because she can do hard things.
Yep.
So I had a athlete who he just did Boulder 70.3 and he trained. So I talked about him last week. He was the person who just did a one-time training plan. Like Wendy and I talked about the differences between if you're our active monthly client, then, we change your stuff around. You have a contact with us constantly. We're helping and moving we're changing things day by day. But if you just come to us and you're like, I just want to pay for a training plan, that's a little bit different. That's like, here's your training plan. I'll answer some questions, but I'm not spending the time to make all those changes because you just paid for a training plan and this is my job.
Right.
So he did how he wanted to do in the swim and in the bike. And then he got off the bike and his run was awful. And he trained really well on the run. Like he followed the training plan perfectly. He trained really well on the run. So we did kind of a little post-race thing, even though, again, I didn't feel like I had to because that's not what he signed up for, but I wanted to. And and what we found out was his glutes and his lower back just did not allow him to run when he got off the bike. And I was like, and he did all his bike rides, all his training perfectly. What I didn't know, because I wasn't training him day by day, was he did the majority of his training rides on his road bike. And then he rode his tri-bike, which is set up a lot differently in the race. And so his body wasn't used to that position on the tri-bike. And it made me think of Wendy when you were like, when you jumped on your bike, you're like, I got to get on my tri-bike because my back, you have sometimes the back problems when you're on your tri-bike. So you have to train on that bike if you're going to race on that bike. And so I thought this was a great thing to bring up because from all the questions I asked, from all the after race stuff that he told me and that we kind of worked through, that's what I see as the problem between him making his goal and not making his goal, was that he raced on a different bike than he trained on. And then he got off the bike, glutes, hamstrings, hips, and lower back allowed him to barely be able to run off the bike.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm worried about, because I'm used to my tri-bike and I did take it in. I got a little adjustments, but I haven't ridden hard on it. So I know that I could get off that bike from riding, because I'm going to go as hard as I can. I could have some back issues. It's my own fault for not training with intensity. But I also know that I'm going to just deal with whatever happens.
Right. But I think it's really valuable to remind you guys, and we talked about this the last couple of weeks, you need to train, not the whole time, but you need to do some training with the equipment, with the nutrition, on the terrain that you are going to be racing with.
Mm-hmm.
It's just especially if you have a goal. If you don't have a goal, if you're like, I just want to finish the race, I don't really, care what happens, then it doesn't have to be as specific in training, because then whatever happens, happens. And he knew he would finish the race. He's an experienced triathlete, but he had a really big goal this year, which is why he came to me for a coaching plan. And if I was his monthly, weekly, daily coach, I would have had more information, and I would have advised against doing all his training rides on his road bike, and then trying to race as hard as he could on his tri bike.
Good advice.
I know. All right. Do you have another question?
Yes. I'm looking for some boredom busting tips. During some of my runs, I'm drifting into this is boring. I'm bored. I'll just walk, which is so ridiculous because physically I'll have gas in the tank and my breathing is fine. So first of all, like, just because you're bored, why would you walk?
I get bored.
Like, and I say that knowing in the back of my mind, I coach athletes who see a hill and they just start walking.
Right.
And I have athletes that start running up a hill and they comment that they start walking because their heart rate is elevated, but they feel fine. And I'm like, well, if your heart rate is going to go up when you go uphill, whether you're running or walking uphill, but that doesn't mean you're going any harder. If you're not physically pushing your effort to make your heart rate up and you're just going up at the same effort, doesn't mean you need to walk. And so again, when you talk about hills, and this wasn't a hill question, but most people walk hills. When you're talking about hills, know who you're talking to, because I'm running 10 miles and I can get in 4,000 feet of elevation gain in a 10-mile hill repeat run. I get it. I know hills. I've had to train my body and my mind to look forward to hills. One guy in Fort Collins, Tony Dragon, when I started working at the Fort Collins Club, he was coaching me for an Ironman, paper, pencil, probably a napkin. He wrote out my training plan. And he told me, when you hit a hill, don't walk. And just his advice of never walking up a hill was very helpful for me. And it made me never walk up a hill unless I'm doing an ultra. So it's just reframing your mindset. But again, going back to the boredom tips, I get it. I don't really enjoy running on the road anymore. Sometimes I'll even skip a run if I can't make it to the trail because I just don't want to run on the road because it's boring to me, the same routes. So again, going back to, I think tip number one is focus on your why. If there's no reason to walk, if you're not injured, if your effort is within the intended point of the workout, just keep running. Maybe just start smiling. I think that helps overcome, especially if things are hard. When you start to smile, it doesn't seem so hard anymore. I enjoy nature. I enjoy the sound of nature. I enjoy the surroundings around me. That's why I like trail running, because I like that nature better than road running on and busy roads and traffic. So yeah, what are your tips?
Well, I agree. I did a 3-mile run on yesterday after I swam, which, by the way, you would laugh, Wendy. Kat and I went to the long course pool, and she was like, "What are you doing today?" She usually just does whatever I'm planning on doing. And I was like, "I'm doing a 2,000 with no equipment." And she was like, "Ew, that sounds awful." I'm like, "Yeah, that does sound awful." So it's the same sort of thing. Like a 2,000 swim with no equipment. I don't think I've done that in the last 10 years.
I would get bored. That's why I don't swim.
Yes. And so I was bored, but like you said, it's a mind shift. So having a reason why you're getting through the workout and using that boredom as mental tenacity, you're building up your mental strength. I promise you, all the races that Wendy and I do, these long distance, she does ultras. We've both done Ironman. Even a 10K could be long for people. We've both done 10K swims. These are long races, building mental toughness, tenacity, and just an emotional and mental place to not stop and to keep going when it's hard. That's what you're building on these boring runs. That's what I did. I did 2,000 without stopping in a long course pool, I felt like I was going nowhere. I would push off, I'd do a flip turn and push off, and my first 10 strokes felt amazing. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, am I on a treadmill? Like, why am I not going anywhere? I'm getting like sucked into the abyss of water. And then I just kept in my mind, I'm like, I just want to stop, but I need to get in some longer swims. I want to do decent in this race I'm doing. I know that it's building my tenacity. And to me, if you're training for a long distance sport, that's the biggest hurdle, is your mind. So if you can, even being bored, keep running, you're building that mental toughness. So after the swim, Kat was doing a 5K swim, and that's all I wanted to do was my 2000. And then I got out. Oh, by the way, my core was so tired after I got out, because I'm so used to swimming with equipment that like helps keep me buoyant and like keeps me like on top of the water. So without having that equipment, I was like, wow, swimming's a lot of core. It's a lot of core work. I got out and did a 30-minute run. Same thing. I didn't really want to run, but I have this newfound like excitement to go do this race in 2.5 weeks. And I was a little tired, not tired enough to have to walk, but I was bored. And I forgot my headphones. So that's my number one. When I get bored, I listen to podcasts. I listen to music. I listen to audiobooks. So that's typically what I do, but I forgot my earpods. And so I'm running and I'm like, this is boring. And I kept looking at my phone. I'm like, am I at 15 minutes yet? Because that's when I'm going to turn around. But the whole time I just kept going, because I know the importance of building that mental toughness, because I don't know a single person in a triathlon or an ultra marathon or an ultra anything, any endurance, that doesn't want to stop at some point. And if you give yourself,
that's part of the deal. That's
yes,
part of the deal with training. And that's part of the deal, especially with the zone 2, building your base type of training. Zone 2 is boring unless you're outside on varying terrain. You're going uphill, downhill, different terrain, different styles or different grades of hills, different flats. It's less boring when you're doing that zone 2 long ride, long run, if you have varied terrain. But again, it is part of the deal. It's part of the training process.
Right. And if you want something less boring, like go do a track workout or an interval workout or something, doing some fartleks, like, okay, I'm going to set my alarm for 5 minutes, and every 5 minutes I'm going to run 1 minute as fast as I can. And then I'm going to recover and fight. Like, you can do that, or you could do to that next pole. I'm going to go. I do this with swimming in open water. I'll be like, I do 100 strokes easy, 100 strokes medium, 100 strokes fast, 100 strokes easy, 100 strokes medium, 100 strokes fast. Because swimming in open water, you guys, it's boring. Like, you're just going to this buoy that's like so far away, you can't even see it at the beginning. And you're like, I'll eventually get there. That's how I felt in my long course, my 2000 yesterday. But yeah, I 100% vary it up. Vary the terrain, like Wendy said. Even if you're training for a road race, you could train on the trails.
Yeah.
You could train and vary train. You could do hill repeats. That makes it more exciting. You could do a treadmill interval workout. I also, like I said, if I'm doing something long or something that I feel like is going to be really hard mentally, I'm like, oh, I've been wanting to listen to this podcast, or I listen to the Dave Ramsey podcast every day. It's 2 hours. So sometimes I need to catch up on those. Listening to music, I have playlists for certain distances of things, or audiobooks. So that if you need something or want something to keep your brain occupied, then that's a great way to do it.
Yeah, I agree.
So, well, Wendy, do you have any final words of wisdom before we talk about what we're excited about for this week?
No, I think, again, a great way to get solid information, reputable information, honest information, is to find someone you trust, like me and Kirsten, and ask a lot of questions. So we can reply to you directly. We can talk about it on the podcast. It makes for great conversations. And it brings up other issues that you or someone else may be struggling with. Again, I want to go back to posting questions, like questions that we answer in our podcast. Might not be the best in a Facebook group, because you might get a bazillion different answers and it might be a little bit more confusing. So just that we welcome questions and we love talking about multi-sport endurance sports.
Yeah, so we'll go back to a couple different different topics for the next few podcasts, but we'll definitely come back to athlete questions because that's what we get most of for both of us in our lives. I have something I'm so excited about coming up. My daughter she's in this musical theater camp. This is her second week. It's a 2-week camp. And at the end of the week, which is in 2 days, they do their performance and it's Wicked, which we're like huge fans of Wicked. And I've never seen her this excited about something. Never. She's been jumping out of bed every day to go to camp. When she gets in the car, when I pick her up, she just is nonstop chit-chatting about all the people, everything they did. And I've just never seen her so engaged and excited. And that really makes me excited as a mom to see her really kind of like finding her people and finding her thing. And it's been so worth it. I drive an hour to Denver every morning to drop her off, then a half an hour back out of Denver to go to whatever job I need to do. It's been a little stressful because my assistants have been having to really take over a lot of my coaching these 2 weeks because I'm driving so much. And then when I go to pick her up, it's a half an hour there and then about an hour back home. So it's like 3 hours of me driving a day. And it's been worth every moment of it because her performance is Friday in 2 days. And I'm so excited. I already know I'm going to cry through the whole thing. Like when just hearing her practice singing, I'm like, get tears in my eyes. I just really think she's found something that she really connects with and she's really passionate about. And I cannot wait to see the performance.
I love it. I'm so happy to hear that.
I know. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for that. What are you most excited for this upcoming week?
Well, my sister's coming to town.
Oh, nice.
And I have my race this weekend. So both my sisters, my mom and I are going to hop in my mom's van. We're going to drive to Chattanooga on Saturday morning. We're going to do Rock City and Ruby Falls, which are two famous highlights in Chattanooga on Lookout Mountain that I've never been to. And then we got an Airbnb. We're going to spend the night and then they're going to come see me race on Sunday. And so that's going to be a really fun weekend.
Oh, that does sound like a fun weekend. Tell your family hi.
I will. Thank you.
Yay. Well, you guys, thanks for all the questions, comments. They really help us determine what we're going to talk about on the podcast because we want to make sure that we're as helpful as we can be. We want to connect with you guys. We hope you want to connect with us. So keep reaching out, asking questions, comments. We love all of that. And I was telling Wendy, when I was biking on last Sunday, I did a 4-hour ride and my podcasts that I had on my phone to listen to were 3 hours. And at the end of the podcast, what automatically came up next was the last podcast of Wellness Made Easy that I had posted. And it automatically came up. So I just kept listening to it. And I normally don't listen to the whole thing. And I was like, I loved it. It brought me joy to I felt like we were just chit-chatting again while I'm riding my bike. I'm like, this is so fun. But it made me laugh because at the end, our outro that we recorded a year and a half ago, it says, if you have any questions or need to get a hold of us, go to the show notes. And I was laughing because Wendy and I had every intention of every single week giving you guys links, giving you guys information in the show notes. And we haven't done a single show note.
And no one's
complained. If you guys have a question about anything we do or talk about in the podcast that's not in the show notes, please just reach out and ask. We want to make sure you guys have the information that you need.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for being here.
Make it a great day.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Wellness Made Easy with Wendy and Kirsten. If you want to learn more about us or anything we talked about today, check out the links in our show notes. We would love to know what you think of our podcast and what you want more of. So drop us a comment, send us a message, and help us out by leaving us a rating and a review. And don't forget to let us know your wellness win for this week. Thanks for listening. Make it a great day.